When Jungkook of BTS stepped into the spotlight with his newly painted nails, the fashion world once again paid close attention. This was not the first time the global star had used subtle but striking details to communicate something larger, and it likely will not be the last. Recently, he displayed nail art featuring hearts in blue, black, and white tones. This design was revealed in connection with Calvin Klein's flagship store launch in Japan, a high-profile event that combined the power of a global fashion brand with the cultural resonance of one of the most influential pop stars in the world. The use of these specific colors immediately sparked discussions among fans and fashion observers alike. Blue, black, and white, when paired with heart symbols, can represent various forms of artistic messaging. For Japan, these colors might not have an official direct meaning tied to Calvin Klein itself, but they created a sleek, modern, and slightly understated palette that aligned with Calvin Klein's minimalist design identity. Additionally, the symbolism of hearts ensured that the design was both personal and attention-grabbing, resonating with Jungkook's fans while remaining consistent with the brand's global aesthetic. Yet, just as the public began to interpret this choice, Jungkook appeared again with a different nail design. This time, the hearts were painted in red and white. Unlike the prior combination, the new colors instantly suggested new interpretations. Some fans speculated that this shift could be linked to Calvin Klein's New York City presence, raising questions. Was this a subtle teaser, a coded announcement, or simply another style decision? Fashion marketing has long used visual hints and symbolic messaging to create anticipation. Brands know that even small details, when attached to a global figure like Jungkook, can create waves of speculation and media coverage. Calvin Klein, as a company with roots in New York City, has often tied its campaigns to themes of boldness, modern identity, and iconic American minimalism. Red and white, therefore, could align with this new direction, especially if the brand is preparing a special campaign or flagship announcement in New York. Beyond brand strategy, nail art itself has become a significant cultural statement in modern fashion. Where once it may have been dismissed as a small accessory, nail design is now recognized as a platform for creativity, individuality, and marketing synergy. For Jungkook, whose every fashion choice is dissected by millions worldwide, nail art becomes more than self-expression. It transforms into a marketing tool, a cultural signal, and even a global conversation starter. Observers of the fashion industry know that details like this rarely exist in isolation. Calvin Klein is meticulous in the way it integrates its ambassadors into campaigns. Whether it's the styling, the photo shoot setting, or even small artistic touches, everything tends to align with broader brand messaging. With Jungkook as a global face of Calvin Klein, his stylistic changes are unlikely to be accidental. The transition from one set of symbolic colors to another could, therefore, indicate an evolving campaign narrative, first Japan and possibly next New York City. The geographical aspect is key here. Calvin Klein's flagship store openings are not just retail events, they are symbolic statements of brand strength in key global markets. The Japan flagship represented a significant move in Asia, a region where BTS and Jungkook hold immense influence. Meanwhile, New York City remains the symbolic home of Calvin Klein. If the red and white design does indeed signal an upcoming event in New York, it would tie neatly into the brand's global campaign arc, moving from East Asia to the United States in a carefully planned sequence. While none of this has been officially confirmed, the speculation itself serves as a powerful form of marketing. Fans and fashion writers are already engaging with the idea, amplifying Calvin Klein's brand presence without the company having to release any formal announcement. This kind of engagement reflects the growing trend in fashion marketing, letting speculation, detail analysis, and fan-driven discussions carry a campaign forward. To fully understand why this detail is so significant, one must consider Jungkook's position within both pop culture and fashion. As a member of BTS, his influence stretches far beyond music. Every appearance, whether at an airport, on stage, or in a campaign, becomes a subject of global media reporting. His collaborations with Calvin Klein have already proven commercially successful, generating increased visibility and consumer interest across markets. Thus, Even a simple change in nail color is amplified to global importance, not only among fans but within the broader fashion industry. Moreover, Calvin Klein's strategy of incorporating Jungkook is part of a larger pattern. Fashion brands increasingly rely on cultural icons rather than traditional models. These icons bring with them not just visibility, but active, engaged communities. By painting his nails with deliberate symbols, Jungkook bridges personal expression with brand storytelling, allowing fans to feel like participants in the campaign rather than passive observers. The transition from blue, black, and white hearts to red and white hearts can therefore be analyzed on multiple levels. On one hand, it may simply be an artistic variation, chosen for aesthetic appeal. On the other, it could serve as a carefully timed shift in messaging leading toward a new campaign or market focus. The ambiguity itself is part of the intrigue, keeping audiences guessing, discussing, and waiting for confirmation. And this way, Jungkook's nail art becomes more than fashion. It becomes a language of hints, marketing cues, and global speculation. Whether the red and white design is indeed a nod to New York City or not, it has already achieved its purpose, sparking curiosity and ensuring that Calvin Klein, Jungkook, and their partnership remains central in cultural conversations. The sudden transition in Jungkook's nail art design raises interesting questions about fashion symbolism and marketing. When the first set of nails featuring blue, black, and white hearts was revealed, the design fit well with the atmosphere surrounding Calvin Klein's Japan flagship store launch. These colors aligned with a sleek, modern palette that emphasized minimalism while still incorporating a sense of cultural elegance. The event was not just about a store opening, but about strengthening Calvin Klein's presence in Asia through the visibility of one of the most influential cultural icons. However, the replacement of those colors with red and white hearts suggests a deliberate choice, not a random change. In branding, every color combination communicates something specific. Red and white, when paired together, are far more bold and straightforward than blue, black, and white. Red often conveys passion, energy, or a sense of urgency, while white can represent clarity, purity, or simplicity. Together, they create a striking contrast that catches attention instantly. This shift in tone from cool minimalism to bold contrast could signal the start of a new stage in Calvin Klein's campaign strategy. The speculation that this red and white design might be linked to New York City is not unfounded. Calvin Klein's heritage is deeply tied to New York, the city where the brand was founded and where its identity as a symbol of American modernism was shaped. From its earliest days, Calvin Klein positioned itself as a bold, urban, and boundary-pushing brand, often challenging conventions in both advertising and fashion design. A move from highlighting the Japanese flagship to preparing for a New York-centered campaign would make sense in terms of expanding the global arc of Jungkook's involvement. It is also important to consider that fashion marketing today relies heavily on hints and subtle teasers. Companies rarely reveal their full plans in one announcement. Instead, they prefer to create a series of smaller moments that build anticipation and conversation. For this reason, something as small as a nail color change can become part of a larger storytelling process. Fans analyze, media outlets speculate, and the brand benefits from free global coverage. By the time the actual campaign or event is announced, the audience is already primed with expectations. The color red itself has an interesting role in the history of Calvin Klein campaigns. Although the brand is best known for its monochrome minimalism, often black, white, and shades of gray, red has occasionally been introduced to create bold statements. It disrupts the expected color language, making the campaign stand out in contrast to the company's usual palette. If Jungkook's red and white nails are indeed part of this tradition, it could be an intentional disruption aimed at signaling something larger, a campaign that emphasizes energy, power, and visibility on the global stage. On the other hand, one must also consider practical explanations. Nail art, while often symbolic, can also simply be a matter of style variation. Celebrities experiment with different colors and designs as part of their fashion routines, sometimes independent of broader campaigns. From a business perspective, the strategy of moving from Japan to New York through symbolic hints makes sense for Calvin Klein. Asia, particularly Japan and South Korea, represents a vital consumer market for global fashion brands. At the same time, the United States remains a central hub for establishing a brand's global legitimacy. By tying Jungkook to both regions, first with Japan and possibly next with New York, Calvin Klein ensures that its campaigns carry international resonance. This dual market strategy allows the brand to appeal to diverse audiences while reinforcing its global dominance. The speculation surrounding these design changes also highlights the participatory nature of modern fandom. ARMY, BTS's dedicated global fanbase, plays a unique role in amplifying every message. Instead of passively receiving brand campaigns, they actively analyze, interpret, and spread messages across social platforms. This creates an environment where marketing is no longer top-down but co-created between the brand, the celebrity, and the fans. Jungkook's nail art becomes a puzzle for fans to solve, and in solving it, they amplify the brand's reach. Yet, while speculation can be powerful, it also carries risk. If the red and white nails are not related to a New York campaign, fans might feel misled. Fashion companies must strike a balance between encouraging speculation and ensuring that the eventual outcome aligns with the anticipation they have generated. Calvin Klein, however, has a strong track record of leveraging intrigue without alienating its audience. The company thrives on ambiguity, often walking the line between subtle messaging and bold statements. In this context, Jungkook's nail art is not just a style choice, but a potential communication tool. Whether it points toward New York or another campaign direction, it has already succeeded in driving global attention toward Calvin Klein. For the brand, that attention translates into visibility, engagement, and consumer curiosity. For Jungkook, it reinforces his role as more than just a music icon. He becomes a cultural ambassador capable of influencing global fashion conversations with the smallest of gestures. The narrative of color transition, from the calm sophistication of blue, black, and white to the bold energy of red and white, is therefore a story worth following. It reflects the evolving relationship between fashion, celebrity, and consumer engagement. At its core, it also illustrates the increasingly blurred lines between personal expression and corporate branding in the modern fashion landscape. The conversation surrounding Jungkook's nail designs illustrates a broader point about the role of symbolism in fashion today. In the past, fashion brands relied primarily on clothing silhouettes, textiles, and accessories to convey messages. Now, in an age where small details can be magnified by digital media, even the most subtle stylistic elements are capable of carrying powerful symbolic meaning. A single change in color, texture, or motif can initiate global discussions, especially when connected to figures like Jungkook, whose every action is closely monitored by both fans and the press. Symbolism has always been part of fashion, but the digital environment has amplified its reach. For Calvin Klein, a brand that has long thrived on simplicity and minimalism, symbolism often emerges not through elaborate designs, but through deliberate restraint. The choice of monochrome palettes, the absence of unnecessary decoration, and the iconic use of clean lines have all been symbols of the brand's DNA. Introducing nail art into this framework might seem like a departure from tradition, but in reality, it continues the same philosophy: small, impactful statements that resonate globally. In Jungkook's case, the blue, black, and white heart motifs could be seen as a nod to calmness, strength, and purity, qualities that align well with the Japanese launch event. The red and white hearts, on the other hand, carry more intensity, suggesting a narrative shift towards something bolder and perhaps more global in scale. Whether or not this directly references